Mother's interrupted the course of our journey.
A transmission?
What kind of a transmission?
I don't know.
What?
Human?
Unknown.
Well, hello there, everybody. I'm Chris.
I'm Morgan.
I'm X.
I'm Z.
And welcome back to X versus Z. We're at episode 20, and we've got an interesting one. It's a personal favorite of mine. It's my all-time favorite horror, and I think it's legitimately a horror. Morgan, before we get started, what should the kind people of the world know?
Please like, comment, subscribe, share, do smoke signals, whatever. Just get the word out about this video, please.
And by smoke signals, we mean the illegal kind. I mean the illegal kind. Anyways, it's Alien. 1979's Alien, directed by Ridley Scott.
Yep.
And Morgan, this is a sci-fi horror. You know I don't like horror per se,
Yeah.
but this is a unique category. When the first time I ever saw this movie, I just, there was so much uniqueness going on to it, and it was so fresh in my mind. I'd never experienced anything like it. What was it?
When did you first see this movie?
I think I saw it on VHS at like my friend's brother's house or something like that. I was 4 years old when I remember seeing the movie poster. Had like the egg.
Yeah, but what year was that?
That was 79.
Okay. So, okay.
It came out in 79, but it's weird what your earliest memories are. So when you first saw this, had you ever seen anything like Alien before?
No, but I was well aware of Alien just because cultural osmosis. The first time I sat down and watched this movie was during a horror movie marathon with my partner at the time, where we watched the original Nosferatu, we watched Scream, Scary Movie, and Alien.
Well, what were your impressions of it?
I thought it was really, really, really good. We did have to stop in the middle and go to sleep because it was like 4 a.m. when we got to Alien.
Okay, so you cut it off halfway through before the alien actually got there?
Yeah. Well, before the big alien got there, the little one was already there.
So when you saw this, was it like anything you had ever seen before?
No, it wasn't like anything I'd ever seen before, as in like a movie. But like I said before, I knew a lot about the Xenomorph from just cultural things. Like I knew about the acid blood, I knew about the face huggers, I knew about all that because when I was 9, my brother got his hands on Alien versus Predator.
Which I think is a fun...
it's so fun. It's such a goofy movie.
It is.
Then he also got his hands on the video game Alien versus Predator, which is so cool.
But we're talking about the
Yes, we're talking about Alien. Sorry.
And no, it's cool because it's such an important part of the influence on culture that it went from being a single movie to an awesome sequel, which we're going to not bury the lead here, but we're doing that in episode 21. And
it just went from there. There are references to the Xenomorph all over the
everywhere.
Place. The Xenomorph was in Mortal Kombat X. It was the final boss in a game called Conker's Bad Fur Day.
So what do you think works about this movie?
Everything. Like, legitimately, every part of this movie works so well together. The acting, superb. The directing is wonderful. The set design is perfect. The sound design, amazing. The special effects, incredible. And specifically...
And practical.
And specifically, the design for the Xenomorph itself, which it's not even called the Xenomorph in this movie. It's just called the Alien.
It's just called the Alien. And, of course, you forgot about my girl. With the low riding underwear, Miss Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, I felt that eye roll. Give me a break, dude. She's a beautiful woman. Cut me some slack. And she's a badass. She gets more of a badass in the second movie. In this one, she has and I'm going to address every one of your points because they're all the foundation of what makes this movie work. But you wouldn't even know that unless her name was on the movie poster that she, through the first half of the movies, that she was necessarily the main character or the main protagonist.
Yeah, it felt, I'm not going to say it felt ensemble, but it definitely felt like Dallas was sort of like the leading man for a good portion of the start of the movie. And then, halfway through, he gets, well, it's a 50,
He gets. Let's just say
but
he
we
gets.
also watched the director's cut extended edition, so there's a little bit more of them just,
Yeah, I understand that, and maybe somebody would say, "Well, that's cheating because you're watching the director's cut." It's the version Ridley Scott intended. So let's talk about the uniqueness of the actual horror genre that this resides in, which is it's sci-fi horror, and which a lot of sci-fi takes place in space. And one of the things that always resonates with me, and why specifically this rather than a schlocky, slasher
yeah.
slasher movie is
They
so
were
effective because for one, I've always loved space. I've always been interested in it, and it has an inherent sense of mystery and danger. And the tagline for the movie is
In space, no one can hear you scream. But the thing with space, from me, that makes it so intimidating is that with the ocean, if you go down deep enough, you will get crushed by the pressure. But if you're close enough to the surface, you can float. You have a chance. In space, if you're lost out there, there is such an infinitesimally small chance of your survival. The entire part of space is just hostile.
Okay.
And it's not even an intentional hostility. It just is.
All right, so what we're talking about is isolation, right?
Yes.
We're talking about isolation with a very small crew of basically what amounts to space truckers.
Yeah.
And they're on their way home and back to Earth after doing whatever their mission was,
something.
mining something,
They're bringing
something
cargo
like
back to
crazy like that. So they get the distress call to go to this planet, and there's a reason they end up going to the planet. We'll get into that later. But one of the things that really Scott did in this that got my juices going, I find that with creature movies, especially when they use minimum exposure of the movie and they build up to it, kind of like in Jaws,
it makes the creature more intimidating when you don't see it, or if
threatening, you don't know what to expect,
or the few flashes you do see is like just the outline, or like this brief look at it.
So one thing that was really fascinating to me is when they land on the planet, which I thought was amazing, was that abandoned ship there. That the eggs were like
underneath.
Yeah, were like underneath there, and there was the whole. They called it it's widely popularly referred to as the space jockey, the pilot that's encapsulated in his own tomb, so to speak.
Yeah.
Now, I for the sake of the whole franchise, I know they explored that history. Of the possibility of that
from Prometheus, right?
Yeah, from Prometheus, which is actually a solid entry in this. It's divisive, but I want to go down that road. What I want to suggest by saying that is just the suggestion of a visual suggestion that they are out of their depth, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, the warning signs are already set there that says maybe you shouldn't go in there.
Also, the thing I wanted to point out that you sort of touched on is that they're out of their depth is just the scale. The Nostromo is massive. The shuttle...
It looks like a floating city.
Yeah, the shuttle that they take that just takes them down to the planet. Unlike in stuff like Star Wars, where it's,
or Star Trek.
Star Trek, where it's like the size of a truck. This is the size of a building. It is huge.
It's freaking huge.
Everything about this is massive and terrifying. And that also adds into the isolationist of it, because it's just these little humans out there alone in these massive structures.
So that first scene, not the first scene, when they open with the credits, and it's that wide view of that planet floating by you could see the curve of that planet.
Yep.
That was the first time. But then there was one where we were both at. You actually said something, and you never talk during movies. I always talk, not always, but you know what?
You talk enough.
I talk enough.
Yeah.
But when they're going down the rope into that next chamber, and you saw the vastness of that ship, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, that was something I actively put down in my notes, is just the scale of it is what makes it incredible. And this also reminds me that if they were to make a Lego set of the Nostromo, that would be a massive Lego set, Also, that would be the
Like
coolest.
10,000 pieces.
Probably more. But that would also be the coolest Lego set ever. Lego, please build it, make it a thing.
Somebody build it. Even if you're,
I will give you my kidney.
Even if, yeah, and he only has one left. He gave
Wait,
me
what?
the other one because I started. No, never mind. I just, put you in a cold bath one day. You just didn't wake up from it.
Oh.
No, but check this out. Let's start with the Nostromo because I talked about the isolation. We talked about the isolation of space. Like that in itself is enough to spell enough dread. Okay.
You could do a whole psychological thriller of
Yeah,
someone
well, I mean
thinking
that,
they
but
see
the
something.
psychological aspect of the is a psychological horror is in itself a thing. But because this is sci-fi, it's really both. But the Nostromo, the design of the Nostromo, and the way it's basically a maze.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
amazing and it's a maze. Like I don't recall them going through a passageway more than once or twice. It was like every room had its own design.
Each room was a very. I'm not gonna say it was unique, but it always felt different and disorienting in just the right ways. Where it's like, okay, I know they're in some type of place where they're fixing pipes or something to do with engineering, but I couldn't for the life of you tell you where it is in relation to anything else in the ship, because
the vastness of it.
Yeah, it's
the scale.
huge.
Okay, one of the things I liked about that is the attention to detail. I feel like this movie is such a it's such a creative collaboration between Ridley Scott, who, by the way, I want to give credit to Ridley Scott because he lets the tension build and he lets the movie breathe. And there's I just want to, we're not going to really focus on it too much, but the score by Jerry Goldsmith, just, oh my God, it's like a garnish, propping up the movie when it needs to.
That was one thing that I also wrote down in my notes, is that the camaraderie between the crew and how they interact with each other. And, they're coworkers and they have a little bit of fun, but there's still a bit of tension there before everything goes straight to hell. That really does make their inevitable ends that much more heartbreaking.
We're on our way home.
Yeah, back to the old freezerinos.
Gotta have something to eat before we go.
I'm sorry, I need some of that.
One more meal before bedtime, I'm buying.
Hey, that's a break.
Big time.
Because, I kind of like these guys. I want to see them make it through.
Well, I miss movies where character actors are an essential part of the movie and not just fodder for, the threat of whoever's going to take them out. But that's a really good point. But the hero, and we're going to get to the Xenomorph in a second, is Ripley, Ellen Ripley, which at the time, it was such a counter casting to, it was unusual to have a woman as your hero, as your main protagonist it's not an action movie, but not to the second one.
Yeah.
But this kind of like put her on the map. And I don't know, the thing, one, she demonstrates competency, and she's like, anytime you want to find the person who's going to live in a horror movie, think of the most rational person making the most rational decisions, and that was Ellen Ripley.
Well, let's talk about killing it. We know it's using the air shafts. Will you listen to me, Parker? Shut up! We'll move in pairs. We'll go step by step until we have it cornered, and then we'll blow it the fuck out into space.
And
Yes.
Sigourney Weaver's amazing in it.
Oh, yeah. Sigourney Weaver's performance as Ellen Ripley was just perfect. There was not a single moment where I saw an actor playing a character. I just saw Ripley doing what she is doing in the moment. I like how there are these little hints throughout the movie that she is, well, not hints throughout the movie, but like what you said, she's the competent one. So even when they were like, hey,
Move your mic a little closer.
I can't without moving the light.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out. I'll boost yours.
Yeah. So there was a section like near the start when the facehugger gets on what's his name's face and wraps around his neck, and they're like, we need to get him inside and get him to the med bay and everything. And she's like, the quarantine, we are not doing this. The quarantine, we're not going to do this. And they do it anyways. And everyone's like, man, you almost let him die. Da, da, da. Like, she gets punched by that Lambert lady. And I'm thinking, you have even if I didn't know it was a xenomorph, you have an unknown alien creature suffocating one of your comrades, and you want to bring that onto the ship where everybody else is.
Okay, but there was a very specific reason that it was brought on while she was overruled. Do you recall what that reason was, and who made that decision?
Yeah, that was Ash, because his programming told him, hey, you're supposed to bring back the creature with no matter what.
Okay. Now I gotta admit something. I've seen this movie several times. I love this movie, but this is the first time I was, because you know what happens with Ash, and what his motives are. I was paying attention to Ian Holm, who is the MVP of this movie. Because of, and if you look at his facial expressions, you can see he's trying to fit in for the sake of a subterfuge of hiding his true intent of the mission.
Yes.
And if you watched it, there's so many nuances to that performance. The way he kind of like looks for validation that he's being accepted, or that he's just kind of like has this suspicious look on his face.
There are also little moments that I think he really does get super close to really being human. Like when he was going up to, like when they first landed on the planet, there was a shot where he's walking into whatever, I think the communications array or whatever that he's in charge of there. And he does this little, like as he's going up to her, because like he knows what's there. He knows there's something
Is he
here.
doing that because he's excited, or he's scared, or is he just trying to psych himself up, or
Well, he's a robot. I wouldn't think he needs to psych himself up. I think it's actual excitement, because not only is this his program, but it's like this, even from a rational mind, this is huge to find actual extraterrestrial life.
Okay, but he is also subverting the most basic function of his programming, which is he's exhibiting what we would call human behavior in some regard, right?
Well, it's not part of his programming is to blend into humans. So it was a very human
But
thing.
he was isolated at that time. At that moment, it was nobody was witnessing his.
Fair, and I think that's why it was I don't remember that scene in any other cut of the movie that I've seen, so I think that's why it was cut, because it just sort of brings up the question of why is a robot doing that?
Okay, so the Nostromo has all these incredibly beautifully designed movie. And I'm leading into the stuff with the Xenomorph here. But I was thinking about this when I was making my notes, and Ridley Scott, who we mentioned, and how well he built the tension and all that. Well, he has art like an art school background, and he has a sense of design. And God, I think I know the name of the writer. Who was the writer on this? I'm gonna kick myself in the butt for not knowing this one. What's his face? O'Bannon, Dan O'Bannon. Okay, so Dan O'Bannon was a screenplay writer. And normally I would leave an insert for a trivia fact, but this is so relevant to the conversation. Dan O'Bannon was the screenwriter for this, and he was also working on this really awesome version of Dune that never saw the light of day, Jodorowsky's Dune. It was this fantastical version of it, where I don't know if you're familiar with Dune or if you saw the movie that came out recently.
Not really.
It was completely different from that. It's an amazing book. However, what was interesting about that is the inspiration for so many of the designs in that movie were from this French artist H.R. Giger. And in the development of the Xenomorph, Ridley Scott wasn't happy with the design. It was too humanoid. It was like translucent skin, and he wanted something more alien, And Giger had done this book called the Necronomicon, and the specific alien is based off it's an amazing book. If you ever can, it's a very disturbing book of art, where you'll notice the phallic nature of the head of the Xenomorph. I love the texture on the Xenomorph too, but the whole design of the Xenomorph was based on the Necronomicon 4. I felt the collaboration. You knew that when Ridley Scott saw that, he was like, there's a moment when anybody is like, when you hit it.
Yes.
That is it. And that design, and it was not like, it was used sparingly, like we talked about earlier, to amazing effect. That collaboration between Ridley Scott and Giger was just perfect.
The thing with the Xenomorph is they had to use it sparingly, because in order to get a full shot of the Xenomorph, you would have to show they're not gonna have to show the guy in the suit, but it was a suit, so it was thick around the torso areas. But the thing is, the Xenomorph in almost every other iteration is like sickly thin looking, belying its real strength, which is why it's able to like squeeze through vents and stuff like that, which is really creepy. But when you mentioned the phallic nature of the Xenomorph's head, that reminded me that there's an oddly there's an undertone of sexual assault with the Xenomorph, just in a general sense, because it forcibly impregnates people. And then, like, especially Lambert's death had a very much sort of very uncomfortable undertone where the tail was going like but down between her legs, and like you.
Oh yeah, it had some. It had some. It's a disturbing design, and
which is a good thing. It's a
but that's why it's so effective. And the thing that I love about the design is that it's this weird. It's like a weird combination of organic material, like organic nature, and it has some kind of industrial, like mechanical feel, and that's a lot of back to Geiger, but he does like biomechanical. Thank you, biomechanical design, and to me that was so new to me that it kind of spark something in my own creativity from that point. And that's why I think that's a lot of time when we rewatch movies, it isn't just about scenes. And I want to talk about a very particular one that we're both thinking of, because this movie's got some iconic scenes.
Yep.
That there's presence of design, and it's so artfully made and crafted that I'm taking it in not just as somebody who's enjoying a movie flick, but like I'm like watching the art be expressed, and I love that about this movie.
And when you mention the biomechanicalness of the Xenomorph, that also reminds me of just how much it is able to blend into the background. There are at least 2 shots I know
of man,
where
it's so amazing.
You can see it if you're looking for it, and it's bright enough, just a little bit brighter. It was just a little bit brighter. You'll be able to see it in so many shots, but you can see it in
Did you catch the first time when it on his first kill with the chains?
Yes, I saw it.
For a second there, I almost missed it. I'm like, oh my God, it's like right in front of us. The ability to blend in is just like,
yes. Oh, and
one of the scariest parts of it.
It almost feels like this is from a metatextual idea or metatextual understanding of the text, which is it almost feels like Weyland-Yutani made its ships specifically to try and help the Xenomorph, because so much of it is like, could it be hiding there? Could it be hiding there? Could it be hiding here or there?
I like the whole idea about the company, the reference to the company. It's pervasive in all of the sequels, except for the third one, really, which is kind of a shitty sequel, and we don't want to go why, but I mean, we could talk all day about the nefarious nature of quote unquote the corporation, but I wouldn't put it past them to have that kind of level of foresight. I don't think they understood it that it was there until after this first movie, what they really had on their hands.
Yeah.
But one of the interesting things that we're going to get into in the second movie is about the ability to try to control that which can't be controlled. And this is a perfect killing machine, the Xenomorph.
It absolutely is. I know Ash mentioned its nutritional requirements, but I have never seen anything about a Xenomorph eating. They just kill.
I like the fact that it has different stages of metamorphosis.
Yes.
And I would like to sit down and figure out how that all works, because it goes from like an egg to
so it lays the egg to create the face hugger. The face hugger attaches itself to a host, which injects an embryo. The embryo consumes what it needs to, bursts out, then flees so it can continue to grow in its evolution from, its little pink stage to the next stage.
And it does that very quickly.
Yeah, because I think we were at like after chestburster stage, it runs off, and then I think it was like at stage 2 when it killed Dallas. Or no, wait, no. Hang on, I mix up. Dallas died after what's his name? Break
died. I mean, yeah. But I understand what you're saying. Whatchamacallit, you just said the chestburster scene, which is the definitive scene from this movie, and we and you and me.
Yes.
We did Young Frankenstein, right?
Yes. Which there's another Mel Brooks movie.
Famously
has a parody of that scene where the same actor has that happen as
yes,
not again.
Oh, it's John Hurt.
John Hurt, yes.
John Hurt, the great John Hurt. And dude, go ahead.
There's a reference in a video game to the Spaceball scene in a game it's a very bad game called Aliens Colonial Marines. But if you do certain things in a level, you can see little chestburster. Okay. No, you can see little chestburster xenomorphs in test tubes and stuff. Do certain things in a level, and as you go into that room with the chestbursters, they got little hats and canes.
Oh my god, that's hilarious! But the scene that it's inspired by, dude, that is one of the most unique applications of a special effect to freak me the F out.
The food ain't that bad, baby.
What?
Hey,
what's the matter?
And you know what, dude? All the looks on the faces of those actors is 100% authentic.
Yep.
And you know why?
Because they didn't know it was coming.
They didn't know it was coming.
Dude,
I would totally crap my pants if I was on set and that popped out. That scream from that chick felt totally real.
Yes, but I saw in an interview, can't remember her name, but she plays Karen Page in the Daredevil series. She actually said that she hates it when directors do that because their freaking job is to act. Let them do their damn job.
Yeah, but okay, fair enough. But you only get one shot at a real reaction. And if you're a director and you can get a second take if they're actors and they're good enough to replicate that. I don't agree with that. I think the nature of capturing something entirely authentic on camera, we've had a kind of variation of this conversation before with the whole, it's a little different, but the whole thing with Shelley, Shelley Duvall. Yeah. But this is a little different. I think for the sake of the art and the sake of horror, it works.
This time, I don't think it's that big a deal because no one's actually getting hurt. You're not, throwing something in somebody's face. You're not, you're
not like abusing
psychologically abusing your actor.
And also, I want to talk about. Okay, so we agree on that. It's the best scene of the movie, yes. But I also think that the final act with
Ripley versus the alien.
Ripley versus the alien was done really well because it lends to itself to that argument that you were saying how the xenomorph blends into the environment. Yes. and it's all crouched up into the wall and shit.
It's also frighteningly intelligent.
Oh yeah, the fact that it knew where to go and that the ship was on self-destruct.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. Here's the thing: a random animal would have gone into a random
animal
would have gone to a random dark corner to hide. This one knew exactly where to go, and it didn't know how to activate the shuttle to escape, but it knew where it needed to go to escape, and it knew how to hide so it could escape. That is a terrifying level of intelligence.
Okay. It's a deeply satisfying movie.
Yes.
And before we wrap up, I have one question for you. There's a couple things, I don't want to call it a nitpick, but it was an interesting conversation of a movie that nobody else would have had a conversation about. Save the cat or leave the cat? Jones.
Okay.
By the way, coolest name for a cat ever. I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to get a cat. I'm definitely going to call him Jones.
Okay. To preface this, I love animals. Cats are adorable. Dogs are the best. I love animals. Fuck the cat. I'm out.
What if it was a really charming cat, didn't scratch you, was
It
really
could
cuddly?
be Garfield. I don't give a crap.
Oh,
I
man,
will
if it
run.
was Garfield, I'd let that son of a bitch die in his own lasagna. I hate that son of a bitch. The hell
Jesus
with-
Christ,
Dude, I hate
Garfield.
I hate Garfield. I hate Garfield. The only thing that ever came out of a good Garfield was the joke from Bill Murray at
Zombieland.
In Zombieland.
So do you have any regrets?
Garfield, maybe.
If I have to, if for no other reason than that reference, then okay. But I don't know, man. I might
could
say
be
I would go
Tom
save my
from Tom.
dog. I would save my dog Daisy, but it was like, I don't know. The thing about these movies, what was the movie I saw the other day? Oh yeah, I was telling you about my friend Chris showed us Miracle Mile, and it's like they have all the time in the world to go back, get the cat, do all these things in 10 minutes in this ginormous freaking ship that probably takes an hour to get across, or 2 hours.
Well, the thing is, they were firstly panicking because it was just because not only was it just the three of them left, but they realized that one of the people that was supposed to be helping them was helping the alien the entire time. So they're panicking. They're saying
that was an awesome kill, by the way.
Oh my God, yes.
But the humans kill what's his face?
Ash. Yes.
Ash.
Which one thing I understand I don't necessarily understand the mechanics of it, but like, why is it white? Why is it?
I don't know, but I like the aesthetic. I thought it was a cool aesthetic.
It is a really cool aesthetic, but like, that was also the white blood for robots was also put into another video game series called Metal Gear Solid.
Great game.
What?
Great game.
Yes, but in the later games they started having cyborgs, and a lot of the cyborgs bleed white blood, which I don't know if it was necessarily a reference, but it's kind of cool.
I mean, the blood of the alien was acid.
and
I mean, which made it even cooler. But
yes.
Okay, so
which that goes back to calling it.
You
like
don't like
perfect...
glue and milk for blood. Fair enough. And you would totally let the cat die. So you're, I'm definitely calling PETA on your ass.
Okay, here's the thing. If I were going to do that, my first thing of business would be, I'm going to get the cat. I'm going to put the cat in the box. I'm going to put the box in the frickin' shuttle.
And then you'll eat the cat on the way home.
No.
Don't look at me like that.
And then...
Zing!
And
okay.
then I'm going to go, and then I'll start the self-destruct sequence. I'm not going to do that on the way.
All right. So I love this movie. I think it's a great movie.
It's an incredible movie.
But I would have to say, I think the sequel's better. And I'm looking forward to reviewing that.
Me too. I am very much looking forward to seeing
Final thoughts on Alien.
I think it's an absolutely wonderful movie. I love this movie. If you like horror, if you like sci-fi.
If you like filmmaking.
Yes.
It's definitely worth the study. Guys, thank you for joining us for episode 20. We made it.
Yes, episode 20.
Of X versus Z.
In the comments, please let us know, what's your favorite piece of media that you've seen the Xenomorph in that hasn't been like...
Or your favorite Alien movie.
Yeah, or your favorite Alien movie. Just put one of those down in the comments below because it's... The Xenomorph's in so many things. It's in Family Guy.
Not only that, guys, if you comment on our videos and you're a regular commenter and you have a movie you liked, you want us to review, if you're a commenter, we always consider it. We've got one more coming up down the pike to satisfy all the subscribers' requests, and that would be the fourth of the requests. Yep. And we're going to take care of that. But for the next time we see you, it will be Aliens, plural. Yes. I almost said Alien 2, directed by the great James Cameron. Yes. And returning will be Ellen Ripley herself, Sigourney Weaver. Until next time, we'll see you later on X versus Z.
Later.
Bye.